Hello everybody, this is me, GamePenguin21, and today, well, this video is more or less just one so I can keep kind of relevant. This past weekend was practically all of the showcases for, well, everyone in the gaming industry, practically. And of course, I'm going to go over at least all of the ones that I think are the most important, at least for me personally. But also, another interesting thing that is happening this week is Steam Next Fest, or at least the Steam Next Fest is happening for the next week. So this stream, at least for Sunday, I hope, will most likely be me playing a bunch of demos on stream instead of going into playing Roblox again, because I needed a little bit of a break from that, and I wanted to just play some actual interesting demos all on stream for once. But with all that being said, what exactly happened? Well, of course, the weekend kind of kicked off with the State of Play, of which I missed, despite the fact that I had it up on the stream, because it was recording a video for a review of another game that I'm going to be reviewing soon. So that is unfortunate that I missed that whole thing, and I was only really playing for about an hour or so, and I missed practically the whole thing. Nothing really looked interesting apart from one game called Tides of Tomorrow, which I think is actually a very interesting concept, just because it is a asynchronous multiplayer game that kind of has you going through another person's aftermath of their gaming choices. So it's kind of like, it kind of answers an interesting question of what happens after you make the decision and walk away from that. So your buddy can do that. I do definitely think that they ever decided to make a sequel to this, which, let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is just an interesting concept in general because of just how it's single player, but also not. So I guess that's really it. That's really all that I could remember from that stuck out of my brain as being actually good. There was a few other things, such as I think some Stellar Blade DLC and some Astrobot DLC that were there, but ultimately not great stuff there. As for the Summer Games Fest, the only thing that I was there for Summer Games Fest wise was actually Arc Raiders, which got a teaser trailer and a release date. So that's actually pretty good. Let them cook, let them do it, because of course there was also Future Games Fest, which I did sit down to sit for because of the finals, which actually did get a very epic trailer because Season 7 is just a week away from this point in time, as well as several other stuff. And the big one and the topic of this particular video is the Xbox. More specifically, the Xbox Rogue Ally X, which is a Rogue Ally system that Xbox helped co-design, I presume, to basically just be its own device, but also a supplement to the actual device of the Xbox ecosystem, which, let me be clear on this, is actually kind of cool for a number of reasons. Of course, this is the original tweet right about here where I started to see it, and of course there is a lot of, well, coping, seething, and other sorts of things, which we are going to get into. But the biggest news that I'm actually excited about for this is that, well, I'm not excited about the actual thing of it specifically. There's a few games in there that definitely were pretty good, but again, I didn't really see it, and I just only really heard about the Rogue Ally kind of system. We'll get into the more specifics and the weeds of this when we get out to this. But of course, we have from the @Xbox here with the Rogue Ally X and the Rogue Ally. It seems that there is two different versions of this, one in black and one in white, and that does seem to be quite interesting. Not sure which one's going to be more powerful or which one's going to be less powerful, or if they're going to have different specs at all. Now, I do think that there is actually some interesting design choices here, because this very much so seems to be kind of aping what PlayStation was also seemingly going for here. It's quite interesting, the design, and quite honestly, I think it looks a little bit cleaner than PlayStation, where they just seemingly cut a controller in half and then stuck a screen in between. It at least looks a little bit more cohesive, and the grips definitely seem to add a little extra comfort, at least from what I'm viewing here. Now, of course, that's my own personal opinion, and again, that's something that I'm not probably going to buy because I have my Steam Deck, and that is more than enough for me. So, yeah. But Nico here kind of goes into the more interesting current timeline where the Xbox games on Rogues are great and PlayStation games on Rogue are great, with PlayStation fanboys just completely and utterly crashing out, which needs to be a most of the timeline here, which we're going to get into. As Nicola here comes in with a very specific thing, saying the Xbox Showcase showed a lot of PlayStation 5 logos. And if that's the biggest thing that you took away from that, and not the fact that, you can play natively PlayStation 5 games on the console, yeah, sure. Go ahead and get that selective memory going right through you. There's also another one from, say, Tipster here, where he says, all I've been seeing from the PlayStation Showcase is coming to PlayStation as well. So, quite the interesting duo of interesting things here. There was also Jolly here saying that the state of play June 4th, the Nintendo Switch 2 launch was the June 5th, with the Summer Games Fest June 6th, and the the showcase for June 8th with this week being packed. And one of the interesting things here is that Jolly J then said, I'm not watching the Xbox showcase anyway, skull emoji. Cool. Good to know you're excited for all of these showcases, but are not going to watch the one that you kind of seem to hear. There's also was an Outer Worlds 2 being $80, and how apparently, again, the Ashen one basically puts on, they were showing a PlayStation 5 logo, and I don't know why they wouldn't. I think the original Outer Wilds also came out on PlayStation at the same time. So saying that it's over with Xbox being, pretty popular right now and actually having a better showcase than Sony was. I mean, again, I actually managed to remember some stuff from the Xbox showcase. Just I can't think of it because it's very early in the morning and I'm very freaking tired right now. So that person you love to hate was also retweeted by J-Dub. I know I cut it off a little bit here because I went down his timeline a little bit, saying it's crazy how fast PC gamers went when we already have all the games to 1,000 Xbox Play Anywhere titles. I don't know any PC gamer that has actually been doing that, so quite uninteresting with that whole dealio. So Rogue Ally also decided to make a couple of tweets here saying, I hope the release for the current Rogue Ally series would be awesome, saying that they will first, the Xbox full screen experience will first come to the Xbox branded stuff and then eventually come to more Rogue Ally things, saying that it is a dumb update and saying, oh yeah, don't actually believe this, coming from good old Porter Rock 77 here, saying, gee, if only there was someone in the community that told people this is Microsoft moving on the Windows and away from the Xbox versus stupid hybrid theory. Which I find really, really interesting because this is still technically a hybrid console. You can actually both stream games natively. Not stream games, but you can stream games to the Rogue Ally. You can natively run games on the Rogue Ally, or you can actually team it up with your Xbox console and stream games from your Xbox console to the actual Rogue Ally, which I find very interesting and far more of a good use case of the actual space and things provided, rather than just what Sony offers, which is literally just an only streaming device. Granted, you don't need a PlayStation to actually stream with it anymore, but at the same time, you kind of need a PlayStation for this. There was also some interesting Silksong news where they were actually having some stuff here saying Silksong waiting years to release just to be a launch title for a handheld Xbox 10 people will buy. I mean, it's also going to be on the Switch 2, which also seems to be the case, and is also launching on PC, as there has been a long-standing Steam profile from what I could tell here. So, unfortunately, I find it interesting. Again, it's like, oh yeah, it's all about Xbox stuff instead of just being excited for Silksong, which has been something that people have been huffing the copium about a lot. McQuack over here, basically replying to the main Nico tweet, saying it's over, where Steam, Battle.net, and Epic Games Store are completely confirmed as a day one purchase for, again, the Rogue Ally here, with a reply again from McQuack here saying, oh no, the marketing is working. People really think the Windows-powered PC handheld marketed by Xbox is a console. Holy shit, the end is near. All they'll need next is to slap an Xbox logo on a GPU and it's over for the platform. Come back, you don't know what you're doing. Now, again, I don't think that Xbox branding this sort of Rogue Ally Windows hybrid type system is inevitably like the end of Xbox, saying how, oh yeah, it's just like the marketing is working now. It's like, oh yeah, it's not an Xbox console. Technically speaking, if it is endorsed by Xbox and has a lot of Xbox like specific software, I guess, which it kind of does, but also kind of doesn't, guess what? It's technically an Xbox console. I don't think it's the next like full release of an Xbox console, as I do believe that they have one more in the tube before they actually end up maybe calling it quits, but that's just wild speculation, tinfoil hat. Do not take me seriously in any of those regards, because quite honestly, I'm a little bit insane in the head. But saying like, oh yeah, they just need to go and make a GPU-powered Xbox version, I don't think that they would ever really do that, as again, the GPU market is very competitive, and well, I mean, if they did, it would be one of those weird things. But Pony Elite coming in here, you'll see him a couple times on this actual see. So he says, so it's a PC handheld. Nice. This is a tragic watching Xbox disappear like this, become a third-party handheld machine, but not everyone can compete on PlayStation's level. There are the true champions of the console space, forced Xbox and Nintendo to go mobile gaming. I mean, mobile gaming, despite the fact that, mobile gaming in and of itself is its own thing and takes up about actually 50% of the actual gaming market. So people do like to take their games on the go with them. So, quite interesting with that whole point you made there. I mean, if they can make more money with it, then what's the problem? Also, again, people continue saying like, oh yeah, no one can compete on PlayStation's level. I mean, highway robbery, completely and utterly just destroying your wallet just for them to make a few extra millions upon millions and buy another yacht for their CEOs. Sure, absolutely. I mean, Microsoft is definitely no better, as I'm not sure what the actual pricing for this will be by the time that this video comes out. So, that's stupid and dumb and annoying, and please get off of my timeline, sir. A couple more replies here from King Wolf and Lady and Light Nimbus here with, you're right, it's almost over. Xbox taking another step away from native hardware, with another one saying it's over, then proceeds to show a PC handheld, completely negating the need for Xbox. It doesn't completely negate the need for it, it does definitely weaken it, I guess, if you really want to be about it, but it's still an Xbox branded thing, and you're still technically giving Xbox a fair share of the cut from the revenue of which you are then introduced into their ecosystem. So, it's another avenue for them to make money, and they realize like it's better to go into the software game, and the hardware game can be handled by other people or something. So again, not the worst business move in the world here. Saying like, oh yeah, it's a PC handheld when it's again branded with Xbox. I again would never really want to get a Rogue Ally because again my Steam Deck does everything and more and runs off of Linux, which is more of like Steam OS and stuff, but again that's just personally me. I still think that you should buy a Steam Deck over most of these other consoles, as again it does everything that a PC does, just at a slightly lower possibilities, but then again that's my own personal opinion. You know how the internet kind of handles that. Nazuko here, I don't know how you pronounce that, saying, like any other crappy handheld on the market right now, Xbox is totally dead. Yes, any other crappy handheld, despite the fact that, well, this thing is a Windows-powered handheld, which, again, you have to really look at the specs specifically for what they're offering, and I'm unsure as to how powerful it is, but if it is just as powerful as an Xbox Series X, or even just a little bit stronger, for the right price, that thing could really, really be doing some good work there. And I'm thinking that since most of the Rogue Allies were like $1,000, since they're actually getting the influence from, say, Microsoft, or the backing of, say, Microsoft, and even just Xbox on that branding, that price might actually be cut in half to around maybe $500 to $600. Though that's maybe just a guesstimate on my part. So again, talking about that and saying Xbox is totally dead, despite the fact that again you have a totally completely branded Xbox thing just sitting in front of your face. I don't know, seems kind of good to me. Pony Elite back at it again with the, I never say this, but Nico here is 100% correct. It's over. PlayStation killed their competition and forced both Nintendo and Xbox into the handheld market. Absolutely effing savage. PlayStation remains king of next-gen console gaming. I mean, congratulations on paying more and getting a lot less for your console space, so congratulations. Now, I get that PlayStation also, again, has that sort of PlayStation Play Anywhere mentality, do they not? I mean, again, they also have their own handheld, and, you're not going to say that, PlayStation is dead for doing the exact same fucking thing, just kind of half-assing it and actually worse. I mean, again, you have the PlayStation Portal, which is its own device, but it's only a streaming device, whereas this one can actually play things natively, which makes it objectively better because it has more features than the actual, thing. And it's also a little bit objectively better because it doesn't seem to lock anything behind a a subscription account, other than maybe Game Pass, but Game Pass usually just locks games behind there, so that's different entirely. But again, I love how, again, Xbox is 100% completely and utterly fucking dead, despite the fact that, again, they still have a console and they still have a pretty substantial ecosystem that's more powerful than in some cases, but I don't know, man. And again, this is not to say that Xbox is completely, doing well over there. Personally, again, I don't really like a lot of Xbox's decisions in certain cases, but they do tend to make more correct, quote-unquote, decisions, though not all of them are actually correct. It's more of a matter of opinion, I guess, but saying that Xbox is dead because they made a handheld device, then in that same context, PlayStation is also dead because they also made a handheld device. Oops. Moving on here, we then have the Xbox PlayStation Showcase news, where they show off things such as Black Ops 7 here, Grounded 2, the Gears of War Reloaded stuff, the new Indiana Jones DLC, Persona R and whatnot, and with Kevin Valbos looking at this entire lineup saying, this shit looks like something you'd see from Nintendo. What? I don't even completely understand what he's talking about in this context here. I mean, most of these actually don't look like they're coming from Nintendo. I mean, again, Invincible Versus, when's the last time? Well, they did have Mortal Kombat, but it was severely cut down, and it didn't really have much in terms of marketing on that platform because it didn't actually look great. I could see a couple of these maybe being some of, like, the stuff from Nintendo, being like Animo, as well as, say, Grounded 2, and maybe The Outer Worlds 2, but definitely not the other, like, half. Maybe even Persona 4R if I'm really, like, cutting things, but definitely not Invincible or Resonance, or even Gears of War, again, that's a Microsoft-owned property. How the fuck do you get any of that from? And again, I love how you can look at all these games and say, this shit looks bad, or something like that. So, I don't know, it just seems very strange of a pick for me. There was then also Calibri saying coming to Xbox with KJN Gamer here with that was a really nice state of play. I mean, I guess it was, because quite honestly, most of those games in the state of play, that was, for the actual state of play were actually garbage. Again, I love how he says, oh yeah, that was a really good state of play, despite the fact that all of these games, yes, are coming to all the platforms, but you're ignoring your own state of play and trying to dunk on Xbox for giving you more games that more people are hyped about and giving you a bunch of games on your platform, despite the fact that PlayStation also did have a bunch of more platform games as well, and their stuff sucked the hardest, again, for like the second year in a row, for like their state of play stuff. I don't know, I just find it really weird because this kind of segments it off into this whole state of play thing here, where we dunk on Xbox, we kind of have to dunk a little bit on PlayStation here, other than the fact that their showcase, again, I completely missed it, and it was kind of butt cheeks. We go here with Zach is whack dude with who the F said this was going to be a huge showcase. We have different definitions on what that means, which is kind of interesting because, yeah, we can kind of see here the actual thing kind of at 2 p.m., 5 p.m., and 11 p.m., whatever the fuck time zone you're in, as well as having 40 plus minutes of news and updates. And 40 minutes is not an insignificant amount of time, but that's still like much less than most of the other places, which had up to like 2 to 3 hours of content. I mean, the Future Game Show, for instance, had a 2-hour live stream for the initial live stream bit, and then had a second live stream on top of that, where they then went to Las Vegas to announce even more games. And Jeff Keighley's thing goes sometimes for multiple days in the weekend, so, kind of seems really weird that PlayStation would put themselves at the start and, have to compare with 40 minutes of stuff that we might have mostly heard about, and finishing it off with some DLC and things like that, with no real big things to announce. With one of the more interesting things, if we kind of look over here, we have Chaos Kid saying the state of play before the Switch 2 and Deltarune, with people being desperate for attention, was seemingly what PlayStation was seemingly going for, with, again, Deltarune being one of the other big things here. With Uni Sensei saying gamers who specialize in defending a dead console will tell you the PlayStation state of play was trash. We know better than they do. but they're in too deep, 10 out of 10. With Silent Hill F, which is also coming to play PC, and Marvel TACCON, which I believe also is coming to every single platform, but I'm not completely sure. Final Fantasy Tactics, which, again, unsure what it's coming to specifically. And then, of course, he also then makes the PlayStation Arcade button controller thing, which, let me be clear, looks pretty awesome for what it is. Kind of PlayStation branded blandness. Not to say that it's bad, and it would probably be a very serviceable arcade controller, since those things have been there for a long-ass amounts of time. But if you're going to spend that much money on a PlayStation, on a controller for, like, fighting game stuff, more often than not, you probably want to actually get that thing a little bit decorated and not just have it be just for the PlayStation. Though, again, this might be like one of those universal controllers, unsure. But when you have 3 games here and 1 full controller here, you kind of realize that this thing wasn't cooking as much as you thought it was. And yes, I know, one of the biggest announcements at, say, Xbox's thing was the actual hardware, but at least that was, actual hardware type dealio with, like, the full Rogue Ally treatment. This was just for a controller, which they had for the last State of Play, if you remember. They had it for new controller colors. So it is still a step up, but honestly, again, if you're excited for a controller at a gaming showcase, maybe a bit of a time you might need to actually, get more games in the system. Next up here, we have Noir saying the State of Play was awesome. You know why? Because Asian games are way better than Western games. That's more of a matter of opinion. A lot of the sort of, like, Genshin Impact type games that were out there made my eyes glaze over faster than you can say, hey, do you want to pass the blunt over? But at the same time, I can't admit that they didn't at least have something. But at the same time, again, no, none of this really just made me feel right, and it just kind of wasn't good in terms of the State of Play in this context, just at least for me. Now, we have Seth Potato with, that State of Play was instantly underwhelming again, with Homebrew retweeting him saying State of Play is filled with sad, dad movie games, gaming is dead. Actually, creative reveals, which actually creative reveals, quote unquote, is not correct, because most of those gaming reveals that we had at that State of Play was games that we already knew. And man, it was underwhelming. It certainly feels like dudes are just addicted to being miserable. Again, most of the games, such as Ghost of Tsushima, the next one, Silent Hill F, and several of the other ones, there were games, again, that most people already knew were coming. The only, like, new world premiere releases was, like, maybe some of the stuff in the back half, but most of that wasn't actually memorable. Again, the only thing that I remember from this, just this showcase, was the Tides of Tomorrow, which, again, has a PC release and is actually something with an interesting concept to me. I'd never heard of this game before, and I probably would have never heard of it if it wasn't for Sony, but at the same time, I mean, it's still coming out on my platform, so I have no need to get a PlayStation. And I think to kind of end this off in a very interesting way here, Game Freak ended up having an actual thing in the PlayStation, in the Xbox showcase as well, at least from what I can see here. With Game Freak, when they're with Nintendo, they had to make a lot of Pokemon games. With Game Freak with no Nintendo, you get this very creative, like, samurai game that I also distinctly remember, because a lot of people freaked out that, yeah, this is made by the Game Freak devs or the Game Freak people who make Pokemon. This does seem to me like they actually now have passion for making this game for whatever reason, and it's interesting to see what this game studio could have been like had they not been just pumping out Pokemon for fucking ages. So, quite an interesting way to end off the thing. And that was the entirety of the actual weekend of Salt of all of the showcases. My final thoughts, well, to be quite honestly and clearly here, the whole of the showcases in the midst of the everything, each showcase kind of had both a high points and low points. I definitely think that of the ones that we had this year, or of the ones that we had over this weekend, I would definitely say that the weakest was most definitely PlayStation, with the strongest actually kind of going to Future Games Show, at least for me, because it had most of the games that I actually kind of wanted into that one. Again, that's that's not to say that I don't like some of the other showcases. There was definitely parts of which that were really cool, but I didn't decide to stream them. And again, at the same time, I didn't really care too much. Only just finding out now through a couple of these other things. And I would still love to see some of like my other things. But again, I think that with Future Gaming Showcases being my biggest one because it had the actual reveal of Season 7 for the finals, because I fucking love that game. But overall, I think that'll do it for this episode of I Am Into a Microphone about a bunch of showcases and upcoming games that, quite frankly, I don't really care too much about, except for the finals, because the finals is awesome. But like what it is today, too, wants to put me any other way, shape, or form other than like and subscribe, which is always enough. Let's hit 1.5k subscribers by the end of the year. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe and stuff like that. Check all the links down to the doobly-doo or the description or wherever the fuck you follow me. I do stream every Sunday at 12 p.m. EST, that is Eastern Standard Time. So catch me there, and we'll be playing some demos this time. So with all that being said, my name is GimPang21, and a peace on.
Hey man, can I get a favor? Yeah, sure, hot.